Well, good morning and welcome back to Musings of a Texas Preacher Man. I'm Scott Fisher, and I'm glad you've chosen to study with me this morning. We've been looking at the subject of the Messianic Kingdom and the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecies by Jesus as the promised Messiah of Israel. The coming of Messiah would be the inauguration of the kingdom. That kingdom is known as the Messianic Kingdom, the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, the new covenant, the heavenly Jerusalem, the new birth, new creation, new heaven and new earth, Zion, resurrection, being raised from death to life, the forgiveness of sin, and more. Now, this kingdom would be characterized by a way of living life in this world that is the complete opposite of the world system. One writer called it the upside-down kingdom. Why? Because the kingdom of God, the first will be last, and the last will be first. In Matthew chapter 20, verses 25 to 28, Jesus said to his disciples, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great men exercise authority over them. It's not this way among you, but whoever wishes to become great among you shall be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you shall be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." Now, the way of his kingdom is different, even opposite of the way of this world. These two kingdoms are in conflict with one another, and each one vies for our allegiance. The followers of Jesus will always be challenged by living according to the ways of the kingdom of God and living according to the ways of this world. Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, articulated in both Matthew and Luke, lays out some of the distinctive characteristics of the kingdom. I call it the Kingdom Manifesto. In Matthew chapter 5, Matthew lists 8 statements that begin with the word blessed or blessed, beginning at Matthew 5, verses 3 through 12. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the gentle, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are you when people insult you and persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." Now look at this. Blessed are the poor in the spirit, those who mourn, the gentle, those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, the merciful, the pure in heart, the peacemakers, the persecuted, the insulted and slandered. These characteristics should cause us to step back and take a challenging look at our lives. Are we lining up with what Jesus called the blessed way of life in this world? Are we gentle? Are we merciful? Are we pure in heart? Are we peacemakers? In Luke's version of the Sermon on the Mount, he includes 4 statements begun with the word blessed and follows it with 4 statements begun with the words, woe to you. We pick it up in Luke 6, verses 20 to 26. Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who hunger now, for you shall be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you shall laugh. Blessed are you when men hate you and ostracize you and insult you and scorn your name as evil for the sake of the Son of Man. Be glad in that day and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven, for in the same way their fathers used to treat the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you're receiving your comfort in full. Woe to you who are well fed now, for you shall be hungry. Woe to you who laugh now, for you shall mourn and weep. And woe to you when all men speak well of you, for their fathers used to treat the false prophets in the same way. Luke's version seems to address the life that these first century followers of Jesus were facing and would continue to face. And in the face of intense persecution and hardship, they're not to lose heart, but to recognize that they are blessed because they've embraced the kingdom. Both Matthew and Luke delve into the practical applications of the kingdom way of living. Over this next week, we're going to be looking at the character or the nature of the kingdom, and specifically from the teachings of Jesus in Matthew and Luke's versions of the Sermon on the Mount. Now, I want to pick up now at Luke chapter 6, beginning at verse 27. This passage has had a huge impact in my life. It's presented me with an ongoing challenge of how I relate with people who are or who seem to be enemies. Now, pay close attention to what Jesus says here. Verse 27. But I say to you who hear, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. Whoever hits you on the cheek, offer him the other also. Whoever takes away your coat, don't withhold your shirt from him either. Now, how many of us can say that we have actually embraced this as our characteristic way of life? Talk about contrary to the world's ways. He continues in verse 30. Give to everyone who asks of you, and whoever takes away what is yours, don't demand it back. Treat others the same way you want them to treat you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. If you lend to those from whom you expect to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners in order to receive back the same amount. Now, these next two verses have radically impacted the way I seek to live out my life, and I believe them to be the primary mark of identification for true followers of Jesus. Beginning in verse 35, but love your enemies, and do good, and lend, expecting nothing in return. And your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, for he himself is kind to ungrateful and evil men. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Now think about this statement. Love your enemies. Do good. Lend expecting nothing in return. And you'll be great. And you'll be sons of the Most High. For he himself is kind to ungrateful and evil men. I'll never forget the day the Lord hit me with this statement. If he is kind to ungrateful and evil men, what right do I have to be anything less and call myself a follower of Jesus? It's not just words. Love your enemies and do good. There's a tangible and visible response. Be merciful. Now think about this. Do you really think that upon our death and standing before the Lord that he will chastise us for being too kind and too merciful? The chief characteristic of his kingdom is love. He is love. And we, his followers, his children, we're to walk in love toward one another and toward even our enemies and even toward ungrateful and evil men. Now, as you think about this today, you may want to do an inventory of relationships and acquaintances. Is there anyone in your life that you need to make things right with? I encourage you, don't delay. Humble yourself before God and even before your enemy. Be a peacemaker. Paul wrote in Romans 12, verse 18, so far as it depends on you, be at peace with all men. Now hear me this morning. Living in his kingdom, living in his presence, is living life in this world according to his ways. Well, again, I hope this has spurred you to wrestle with the scriptures, to think about why you believe what you've always believed. And I look forward to continuing our study of the Messianic Kingdom, and I hope you'll continue to join me right here again tomorrow morning as we continue to discover the truth of the Messianic Kingdom. Why not click on the subscribe button on the lower right corner of your screen? And you'll be notified in YouTube whenever a new video gets posted. And if you're watching on Facebook, why not consider sharing this on your wall and invite your friends to watch it? And if you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, why not join me on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. for Wednesday Nights in the Word? Hey, I hope you'll go out and make today